We are still in Oshakati waiting to do our visa so we can get to Angola, and today I decided to sketch the place we are staying. I will draw eventually on, I'm still not quite sure, maybe pencil, and try to capture those shadows that I quite enjoy when I see now. The weather is perfect right now, it's not too hot, it's still 8 in the morning. This is my setup, if you want to know. I'm gonna put the chair here. I will have this view from this chair. I will record it with my 360 camera, and then I will edit my tripod and my bag with all the stuff. And I'm gonna use Hanyemula sketchbook. This is actually the first sketch that I did. This is 200 grams page. This is Tanya, the owner that I sketched yesterday, and I'm thinking to sketch in this area, in this page, so I can have a story all together with her. And yeah, I will draw in here. Here I am. This is the view. I'm seated and I'm watching all these houses. And when I started to sketch, I decided to go to the roof since it was the biggest shape that I had and the easiest form to start the sketch. And when I draw that, I had already a feeling of how the house is going to look like. After that, I'm just drawing a bit the skeleton of the house. And then I went through the vegetation. The vegetation is actually what is going to make the big difference in this sketch, because it's going to be very contrasty with the white of the houses. As you can see in here on this part, the green makes the houses standing out because it kind of helps with the form of the house. The roof, I just did a little dot to make some definition to it. And then here where I am doing again the vegetation. When I'm doing vegetation, I try to do the darkers and the shadows immediately, so I have a sense of where the light is coming in, even if later on the sun just left, but I still have that information. Then I started to add more details. So as you can see, I did the first big structure with lines, and then I went to details. Even here I'm doing more details on the tree, the shadows, like I said before. When I'm also sketching, I try to visualize what and how I'm going to paint this sketch. Also, I try to add more darkers to define a bit contrast. The problem of sketching in the shadow like I am right now, as you can see, it's your eyes are always changing for the bright side where the house is, and then the shadow side where the book is. And this hurts a little bit the eyes. That was a bit of my struggle when I was doing this sketch. In this area I was a bit confused if I should create more information on the right side on the tree that it's unfinished, or I should leave like that. But in the end, I decided to complete the whole tree and give like a finish side on that area. And then I started to compose a little bit the background. So it's not just about the houses, and brings a little bit more depth to the sketch. But I'm almost done with my line work. After this, I will just add some colors, just adding some details here on the floor. And that's it, nothing more. Just a quick reminder that if you want to support these kind of videos, join me on patreon.com World Sketching Tour. Over there I'm sharing postcards, I'm sharing high quality sketches, I'm giving away all the knowledge that I have during these years by sketching. Your support will help me to continue doing my travel and sketching around the world. Now that you listen to this, continue watching it. My beginning of sketching or painting this time, I wanted to start with the greens again because I knew the greens were the most powerful contrast between houses. So I go for the first layer of greens in the foreground with my strongest green, and this way I could later on choose to have softer greens in the background. Sometimes I choose to do these greens first on the background and then I go harder or darker in the front in the foreground. But this time I decided to go first draw and paint these foreground green areas and let the background for later and see if I really need to paint it or not, because sometimes you don't really need to paint everything if the draw is already with that suggestion. Since I also draw this with pencil, obviously the ink, the watercolor, is going to be more expressive, and the line, it will be more faded when the color just gets into the paper. And that's something that I had to realize and understand during the process of painting. But as you can see, I'm mixing tones of green to not have just one flat green and try to have a more homogeneous different types of green, so it brings a better mood to the sketching. Then I went for the shadows that were very expressive and contrast on my sight, on what I was seeing, and that is gonna make the sketch actually worth it. It's I think it's the most rewarding part. It's to do this shadow, and I went right through them once I could still see it, and there were no clouds. Actually, here in Namibia, it's a lot of sun, so probably there's never clouds. But I went for these shadows, and then I will go now for the roof. The roof, I didn't want to make it too dark. I wanted to give a suggestion of the color of the roof, but I had a bit of a struggle because the weather was very, very dry, and you can see my brush strokes there. Once I finish, they are pretty much dried. For this, I can give you a tip. You should always press and hold quite an amount of water and the pigment that you're mixing. Just do a good quantity on your palette. So even if it's getting dry fast, you just go to the palette, pick another bit of water, and you're ready to go. I'm still doing the roofs here. In this part here, I thought I could do a bit of the shadow over there, but then I didn't like it, so I went through and I tried to dissolve a bit that color. I will later on add more information on this roof because it turned out a bit too soft. I think for me that's the most important, is you try and you fail and you keep trying and you do what is not resulting, and you keep adding more definition to the painting. As much as I like to have the painting structure in my head, then it needs to be a free flow once you're inside and doing it. I realized at this moment that the sketch were getting a little bit flat, so I went to more expressive colors, to the doors and to other parts of the sketch where I could see some more interesting bright colors like red and orange. Details are important because it will bring patience to your sketch. It will show that you actually dedicate time to be sensitive and look at your sight carefully, and I do take my time when I can. Of course, traveling and sketching is not always the most comfortable thing to do, so it's not like being at home on a studio and do that. But I do like to take my time when I'm sketching. In here, I'm going for the background. It went a bit too dark, so that's why I cleaned that part. And I'm doing these greens just to see if I can separate that tree from the background, but I still want to add that green to bring you the atmosphere of the place. And now, as you can see, I'm adding a lot of water. The palette is getting really wet because I want to do the floor in the foreground. So I will give more feeling of the bright in the house. If the floor is white and the house is white, then it's too much white. So I decided to just have a soft brown to give that impact to the house, so you can actually see now the separation. And then a little bit of darks just to also suggests that the earth has some texture. And I'm cleaning my palette because if it's getting too dirty and I want to use bright colors, it won't work. And in this case, the sky, you cannot just mix blues to do the sky. The sky is blue and that's it. And so you really need to go for almost untouched blue to do that sky. And that's what I did here. The blue also helped to bring the atmosphere for the house. And right now the sketch is, the painting is done, but to be honest, I still feel like I can bring more depth to this sketch, and I'm gonna now start to make darkers where I feel I should bring that contrast. Also to make elevations and make the house standing out from the background. After this I will do the trees and exaggerate sometimes the darks, because the reality when I'm seeing everything is too bright, but then in the sketch doesn't work. So there's a moment of when you're sketching and painting, you need to actually disconnect from your view. Even if what you're seeing is exactly what you're painting, it doesn't really work sometimes if you want to express, and that's the most important thing, is you have to tell something with your sketch. And if it's not really working, then probably you should stop looking and focus more in your page and see what's going on. And then when you're doubting or when you're not sure about what you're doing, then look back to the reality and see what's going on. Because at this point the structure is there, the paintings and the suggestions are all there, so there's not much you can really get out from the reality. Is just pronouncing and see what you can do more to show and represent better your sketch. Now I'm going to do a bit of the colors, bring it that poppy colors that is going to take this homogeneous green and brown from the floor, and it will make it a little bit more gracious, the sketch. I tend to change the pens when I'm doing details for a smaller water brush pen, and this way I can just have a little bit more details without changing too much what I'm doing. And this brush helps me to do those details with more precise. As you can see here, I use my finger to see if things were dry or not. It's something that you should do if you want to use a more opaque color. And I believe now I'm going to do that tree that is also standing over there. I also did that tree to take the eyes from the house, so you can see there's something in front the house. More details on the roof. On the windows. and now I'm expressing more the tones. And now I'm gonna bring the oranges that I was missing on this sketch, and it will help as well to give like a base to these houses, because I'm gonna do that red part, orange part to the bottom of the house. And that's it. This is the end of the painting. I just did more details in the end to bring that contrast. And since I'm doing with a pencil, of course, it's not so strong. All done. This sketch took me about 20-30 minutes to do it. But that's it. That's the sketch that I did today in near Oshakati, where we're gonna get our visa to Angola. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions about my process and work, and I catch you on the next video.